He misses. But they don't miss out. Their day, their year, their joy.
Welcome to another episode of The Protected Zone, where we talk about everything that relates to AFL, this great game of ours. I'm in Sydney and my co-host is...
Linton, and I'm in West Sumatra, and this is in fact the number 9 edition, or round 9 edition of The Protected Zone. How does it feel to be a number 9?
Well, I feel a bit awkward about number 9. I'm not sure if it's actually a lucky number. Lucky number is number 7, and we've already done our episode 7, but whenever I hear of round 9 or the number 9, I think of Revolution No.9.
Yes, you've got to play backward, and we'll look at all those weird way to look at numbers and stats, and what it means in our footy. Upside down 9 is 6, isn't it?
Yes, it is, and 6 is the sign of the beast. So we better be careful about what we talk about over the next little round. We'll look at the numbers game a little bit later on. And one question that we do have to ask, and we will look at this later on, why is a goal worth 6 points?
Indeed, we'll talk about that, but that's later. And, also in the program, we will give another team a new team song.
Now, as I mentioned before, you are based in West Sumatra at the moment, in the town of Padang. What is it like watching the AFL for you? How easy is it to access?
It normally is very easy, but last weekend I think the line between China and Sumatra was a bit dodgy, and it's sort of dropping down a bit, and in the end I gave up. So it was a bit dodgy line between China and Indonesia, and I think that's why our president Joko went to China, I think, and spent a couple of days in Beijing talking about infrastructure. So hopefully in a few years' time, if we ever play a game of footy in China, and I could be able to watch it in a clear sort of more not disjointed images.
And how would you normally watch AFL in Sumatra if it's not through the internet?
Well, we have this excellent service by our taxpayer-funded ABC's Australia Plus, it's called. And Australia Plus rebroadcast most of the games live to air, 4 games, 5 games a weekend. I really enjoy watching it on Saturday, Friday night, Saturday during the day with the local mates, and explaining a few rules. And one of the things they're so intrigued is that the game is played in oval. When AFL is thinking about expanding to the other countries, that is going to be the biggest issue, finding the venues. Our game started in a cricket pitch, cricket ground. So naturally, those countries with the cricket grounds, maybe the obvious places to go, but any of the places that don't have a cricket to start with and cricket ground, it's going to be a struggle.
AFL is the only game that has a playing ground that replicates the shape of the ball. It's oval shaped, so they play an oval.
You mean soccer don't play a square ball?
No, they don't. Soccer actually plays with the round ball. Why don't they have a round pitch?
Yeah, what about basketballs? Do they play a sort of square ball?
No, they do not. AFL is quite unique in that sense that the ground that it actually plays the game on is exactly the same shape as the ball that's used in the game, so that's quite unique.
Is that coincidence, or they planned it that way?
I think it's a coincidence. It probably developed from a sense of situation where they thought, well, how much space have we got to play this game? Here's roughly an oval shape area, let's do that, that will do. And I think it just developed from there back in 1858.
Right, and those two elements, oval ball played on the oval ground, oval-shaped ground, they are the truly unique sort of features to many people outside Australia. We are so used to watching the game, so we kind of take it for granted. But watching it with the fresh eyes, and they keep coming up and ask you the questions, like as we touched on why is the goal awarded 6 points? And first thing I had to explain is those 3 columns of numbers, goals, behind, and total. And they keep asking me, why do they have 3 numbers? I said, oh yeah, goals worth 6 points. And I was asked, why? Do you have an answer?
Yes, I do have an answer for that. It was actually based on cricket initially, where the idea was that you kick her goal, that's a big thing, you get 6 points for that, because cricket also has 6 runs for a hit that goes over the boundary line. So I think there was some equivalence between the game of football and cricket, and it's stuck, as I mentioned, since 1858. But let's get on to what happened in round 8. Round 8 was a fascinating round.
Yes, there's a couple of very close games, 3 close matches, yes. And in one game, GWS went in the last, 40 seconds or 30 seconds?
Well, it was actually closer than that. It was within the last 24 seconds of the game. Stevie J, yes, he kicked a goal in the last 24 seconds of the game. Collingwood was ahead by 3 points. Greater Western Sydney stole the match. They won the game by 3 points. So that was a very, very close match. Now, there was an even closer match that occurred where Richmond, yes, they snatched the lead within 24 seconds of the game left. And from that point onwards, you would think, well, they'll wrap up the game somehow. But Fremantle managed to drag the ball from the centre, kicked it all the way down to the forward line. David Mundy marked the ball, kicked truly.
After the siren.
Yes, after the siren. Let's listen to that little snippet.
Here we go, last roll of the dice. Sandilands tries to get it out. Here they go. Lockie now from centre half forward. Needs a mark and he's got it. He's got a kick after the siren. What drama at the MCG.
How big a kick is this for the former skipper?
David Mundy, the siren's gone. He needs to kick a goal.
That's sick in the guts feeling at the moment.
They haven't scored a goal since the 9.5-minute mark of the third term. It does not matter. After 120 minutes of bone-crushing football, it comes down to one kick. David Mundy, the 259-game veteran of the Dockers, the former captain, comes in. The kick is on its way. He's kicked the goal and Fremantle win it after the siren. What a game of football.
And there you have it. He marked the ball. David Mundy marked the ball. The siren went. He kicked the ball and it went straight through the goals. And that was the match over.
It was a pretty gutsy effort coming back. Fremantle, I mean, Fremantle was leading the game all the way, and Richmond was gallant enough coming back in the final quarter. And, with 40 seconds to go, they were leading. And everyone thought, yes, Richmond, great comeback. But there was another turnaround.
Yes, it was actually quite a poor match up until that last 20 seconds of the game. So for 3 quarters, it looked like Fremantle was going to steamroll the Richmond Tigers, and then they mounted a comeback. But even still, in the final 2 minutes, you thought they just haven't done enough here. They did get ahead, then Fremantle scored a goal after the siren. They won the game, but that was the only excitement of the match. How important is to have a close game?
Well, it's not very good for your heart if you're a supporter of Collingwood or Richmond. I mean, Fremantle and the GWS too. Kept you going. Even though, as you said, 3 quarters of the match, it was fairly boring, and you thought, if you're a Fremantle supporter, you thought, the game's won, and you relax and have another beer. And then, Richmond kept coming back. Oh, heart starts pumping again. Then same with Collingwood. Collingwood supporters thought, oh, well, Collingwood hasn't lost any game to GWS. Yes, if they are going to win a game again this season, this will be it. And they were sort of on target. And, GWS didn't have enough fit players on the ground. So, those supporters maybe relaxed a bit, and they thought the game's won, but then, lost in the end. That's doubly shocking.
Well, as we keep saying on this program, the game is not over until it's over. You have to keep pushing ahead, forcing the result right until the end of the game. And unfortunately, in the case of Collingwood, they didn't do that. Unfortunately, in the case of Richmond, they didn't do that. And you do know how much I love statistics, but I did some research into this, and throughout the history of the AFL, which commenced in 1897, that's a very, very, very long time ago, a goal after the siren to win the game has only happened 49 times in AFL history.
How many games altogether was played during that time? Like thousands, isn't it?
Oh, they must have had thousands. I don't think it's in the millions, but thousands at least. And so it's only happened 49 times in 121 seasons. So it doesn't happen very often, as you can tell. But what does losing a game after the siren, through a goal or a point, what does that actually mean for the teams going into the next round and for the rest of the season?
I think, based on your stats, that both teams, even the losers, should feel lucky to be in that sort of rare occasions, 49 times in the AFL history. Wow, lucky to be in that, one of the rare occasions to be winner or loser, in this case loser, at that rare occasions. So I think both of them should feel fairly lucky.
Yes, and I think because it has only happened 49 times, the idea of winning or losing a game after the siren, there should be some sort of cup that's presented to the team that loses with a goal after the siren. I think that would be quite adequate for a losing team.
I do agree. I mean, they should be given a special award, like something like that.
Now, the big shock of round 8, as far as I'm concerned, was Melbourne not just defeating Adelaide in Adelaide, but absolutely thrashing them. What happened there?
I think, we talk about we've been talking about the Richmond, are they real deal? But, and we thought, Adelaide are real deal, but are they real deal?
No, I'm not so sure about that, but everyone was saying, absolutely everyone, including us in the media, everyone was saying that Adelaide will win the premiership for 2017, and I'm very sure that the cup makers were actually engraving the word Adelaide onto the cup, but I think we might have to make a new one.
Yeah, while Adelaide is showing a bit of wear and tear, Sydney Swans are sort of making a big comeback, I think, even though they are still 2-6. But, they're getting into the form, and maybe they may be peaking at the right time instead of, Adelaide and Richmond peaking in April and May. Some other teams may come back to snatch a September glory. After all, what counts is how you perform in September.
Well, exactly. Like, who cares about which game you won in round 1 or round 2 or round 3? It's what you do at the end of the season and in the finals. And we might have a situation where there were 3 teams after round 5 that were undefeated. That's Richmond, Geelong and Adelaide. Geelong have lost their last 3 games. Richmond have lost their last 3 games. Adelaide have lost their last 2. So I think they might have been going for the position of April premiers or May premiers, but they might be also rounds.
Yes, it looks like a very, very even season. It looks like it. From top to 11th or something, there's 2 games, and even down to 14th, there's only 3 games between them or something. It's very, very, to say the least, it's a very even season so far. And that gives, hope for the current cellar dwellers like Sydney, Hawthorn, even Brisbane, and maybe Collingwood. Faint hope of making it into the top 8.
Yes, well, I think whenever there's a mathematical chance of something happening, there's still a chance of that happening. So I think it's looking good for teams such as Brisbane, Collingwood, Sydney, North Melbourne, still in with a little chance. as you know, I do love to do research, and I did some research on the internet during the week, and I found out that there's a Lego set called Shanghai Showdown.
Really? Is it trademark registered?
Yes, it is, unfortunately. So I think AFL might have got into some copyright issues with the whole idea of calling the Port Adelaide Gold Coast match the Shanghai Showdown. And to be quite honest with you, we did talk about the Port Adelaide Gold Coast match earlier on, but putting together the Lego set called the Shanghai Showdown would have been far more exciting than actually watching the AFL's version of the Shanghai Showdown. It was a woeful match.
Was it really called Shanghai Showdown? I thought it was Shanghai Shenanigan.
Well, it ended up being the Shanghai Shenanigan, but it was a very poor match. I don't think the Chinese will be coming back after seeing that performance. It was quite a poor match. It was very low scoring, very inaccurate kicking. The skills were very, very low for both sides, not just for Gold Coast, but it was... The final scoreline was 15 goals 14 to 4 goals 14. How are you going to entice any spectators to go along to watch that sort of shenanigan?
Were there any Chinese spectators on the ground? I couldn't figure out because, as I said, my TV screen was a bit blurred, and the line from China to Indonesia was a bit dodgy. But were there any spectators, local spectators in the stand?
Yes, there were Chinese spectators in the stand, but predominantly the audience was from Australia. So I think a lot of people would have thought of it as a bit of an overseas holiday, go to Shanghai for a week or something like that, and go and watch a football match. But it was something like 30% of the spectators were local Chinese people.
Oh, well, that's a huge turnout. I wonder if they paid, and if they did, how much did it cost, I wonder. Do you think there's going to be another match in Shanghai Shenanigan?
The AFL, during the week, they did say, yes, it's been a huge success. The match was awful, but the whole event was a huge success. So I think they're talking about coming back to Shanghai next year, but the AFL might want to go back to Shanghai, but will the spectators come back? I'm not so sure.
No. As I said, the ground looked rather good, but... it can only hold 10,000 or something, isn't it? It's not really AFL standard. Maybe okay for a rugby league match or something, but, AFL, you got to have at least, 30,000 capacity at least. Otherwise, you wouldn't call it footy match, would you?
No. And having that sort of crowd at a big AFL game, I don't think it works quite well. There was something lacking within the game, and I think that point that you made about the audience or the spectators not being very big, I think that probably downplayed the overall event as well. So I'm not sure if they should go back to Shanghai next year. I'd suggest that they actually go to other areas within that region, maybe Mongolia.
Oh, Mongolia! That's left of centre or centre-right coalition suggestion. Mongolian. What's the capital called?
Ulaanbaatar.
That's it. That's where they have all those yurts.
Yes, they have many yurts in Mongolia and Ulaanbaatar. But I'm suggesting that what they could call it is instead of having a Shanghai Showdown in China, have the Ulaanbaatar Biff in Mongolia.
Oh, Biff is okay, yes. But using those yurt as a ground, and you can play it inside, kicking the ball around. That would be good.
I think it would be. And if they're not prepared to go to Mongolia, perhaps somewhere like the Ukraine. That could be another interesting location for the AFL to look at.
Do you think they have a cricket ground?
I'm sure they have a horse racing ground, so that would be more than suitable for an AFL match. So next year I'm suggesting Mongolia or Ukraine. AFL, go for it. So we talked about this very briefly before, the numbers game and how important are numbers in the AFL. So Lin Tang, how important are numbers in AFL?
Yes, the numbers seems to be very important in footy these days, especially these days. All sorts of stats, keep thrown at you. Used to be just goals kicked, goals conceded, for and against, and the percentage. That was only numbers I used to know. But these days you gotta know kicking efficiency inside 50 or I50 or tacklings and all sorts of numbers to look at. Do they mean a lot to you, Eddie?
Well, they don't actually mean very much to me, but I'm sure that they've got their mathematicians working at each club, working out all these statistics, trying to dissect what they all mean and how relevant they are. They're probably opening up Excel spreadsheets all the time and checking out what this stat means against that stat. And it's all confusing for me, and I'm sure for most of the AFL football followers. But
what about the players? Do they understand? I mean, do they set out to play like, I'll aim at getting 30 touches in this game? Or are they actually going to focus on kicking the goals and win the game? Or, I will improve my game by improving my tackling number to, 20. That sort of thinking, or am I just reading too much into these numbers?
I don't think you're reading too much into these numbers, but contrary to a lot of perceptions in the world, footballers are very, very clever. They're very clever people. Most of them are university educated, and if they're not university educated, they're doing a course in linguistics or cultural studies or journalism or engineering, education, sports science. They're doing so many different things. So I'm sure that when the team mathematician throws a couple of figures at them and statistics, and I don't even think they need to outline what the figures mean. They'll just say tackling 22 and they'll automatically know, 22 is not the right number. I've got to get it up to 30 or 35 or 40 or something like that. Inside 50s, they'll know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, but some teams are good at getting a lot of that, but very few number of goals, which is the ultimate numbers that counts in this game.
Exactly, and it doesn't matter if you've got more inside 50s than your opponent, or if you've tackled more than your opponent, or if you've had more kicks or more hand passes or more 1%ers. Doesn't really matter. Like, the final thing that counts in a game of AFL and in most other sports is who's got the most points.
The other numbers very important in football games is one you wear on your back. The players wear numbers and they get identified. Oh yes, number 9 is Trent Cotchin, or number 9, Gary Ablett. Instantly sort of names a player, and the number is sort of inseparable.
And why would a player choose a number 9?
I don't know. Is it their choice or they're given? Do you think the lower numbers are meant to be more more highly important senior players? If you're wearing, say, 65 or something, you're not considered to be a best 22. Is that the case?
Initially, when AFL first commenced in 1897, there were no numbers on the backs of players' jumpers. They didn't wear numbers up until around 1909.
1909?
Yes, 1909. And the reason why numbers were introduced was that it helped spectators and umpires and everyone else identify the players. I think there's been a natural progression, but initially numbers were similar to the way that numbers are perceived in soccer games, where the higher your number, the more valuable a player you are. But I think that's sort of dissipated over the years. So I can remember up until maybe 15, 20 years ago, if you had a high number, single digits was great. Between 10 and 20 was pretty good. 20 and 30, not too bad. But if you got a number above 30, and definitely if you had a number above 40, well, that probably meant that you weren't such a good player. But that's changed over the years, I believe.
Really? I tend to think in most sports, the lower numbers are considered to be the, more valued players. And indeed, if you look at the current players who were number 9 in AFL, what a team! What a players! Just the star-studded. You could have a team of number 9, and I think it can beat anyone.
And how would we get these number 9s from all the different clubs playing into the one team?
Well, a lot of midfielders, Rolly Sloan, Dave Beams, Pat Cripps, Brendan Goddard, Matt DeBoer, Gary Ablett, as I mentioned, Tom Scully, Sean Burgoyne, and Jack Trengrove, Robbie Gray, Trent Cotchin, and Jake Stringer. Well, pretty good team.
Yeah, so I do like that idea of having a team of number 9s, but where would it end? We could have a team of number 8s, team of number 5s, number 32s. The possibilities here are endless, and I'm disappointed that the AFL is not using this as a marketing opportunity.
Okay, that numbers thing is done and dusted, and now we move on to a team song segment in the protected zone, number 9, number 9, number 9. And this week, the team that is going to have a new song is Hawthorn. Now, Hawthorn team songs, you might have heard it so many times over and over and over and over again last 4 or 5 years. Do we need an introduction, Eddie?
I think we do, because there are some people out there, I don't know where they've been living over the past 5 years, but there would be some people that have never heard the Hawthorn team song, so let's listen to it quickly.
We're a happy team at Hawthorn. We're the mighty fighting horse. We love our club and we play to win, riding the bumps with a grin at Hawthorn.
So there you go, there's the team song by Hawthorn, and it's sung to the tune of Yankee Doodle Dandy, written in 1902. What can you tell me about this song?
I don't know. All I can, I didn't know there was an original song. I always thought one for all and all for one. We had a happy, happy hopes or something, just etched in my brains just because it's been played so often. Not just the last 5 years or 6 years, but during the 80s. Maybe we didn't hear so often in the 90s, but so it was called the Yankee Doodle Dandy.
Yes, written in 1902. They did introduce the song in 1956. Now I must point out that Hawthorn have been in the AFL, previously known as the VFL, since 1925, and for the first 36 years of their existence, they didn't win anything. No premierships, no nothing. They were quite often at the bottom of the ladder. They were the easy beats of the competition, and I'm not talking about the easy beats as in the band, but they were just easy beats, easily beaten week after week after week. Then they adopted Yankee Doodle Dandy in 1956 with their own lyrics, and ever since then they've won 13 premierships.
Wow, so they may not need to change the song after all. They've got their lucky charm.
They do have their lucky charm, but I'm not so keen on it. I don't really like it. And it's probably a case of having heard it so many times over the past 7 or 8 seasons with all of the success that the Hawthorn Football Club has had. I think they should change it, most definitely. You can't have a football team that has a Yankee Doodle Dandy song as its team song. It needs to change.
I'm glad you said it in one go. Yankee Doodle Dandy. Yes, but they may, with a new song, they may win the, 13 flags in 13 years or something. That would be a scary concept.
Yes, it would be. And I'd also like to point out that Hawthorn, for some bizarre reason, during their premiership years, which were from 2013, 14 and 15, they would sing Daryl Braithwaite's song Horses whenever they would win a game interstate. That is so bizarre.
So they had two songs.
Yes, they did. They would sing two songs if they won the game, and they were also playing interstate. So if they played in Perth and won a game, if they played in Adelaide and won a game, if they played in Sydney and won a game, they would sing the Hawthorn team song, and then they would sing Daryl Braithwaite's Horses.
Weird concept. Would they do it in Shanghai as well if they were to play in Shanghai next year?
I'm sure they would, but for those people that don't know what Horses sounds like, here's just a little snippet of it. Now, can you imagine that song being sung after an AFL team wins a game anywhere?
I'm not sure. Footballers are not trained singers, and it's hard to imagine they're singing tunes. But if they're good at on field, what more can we ask?
That's right. But anything is possible. But we will announce the new team song for Hawthorn towards the end of the program.
For sure.
Number 9 has been the theme of round 9, and that's pretty obvious, but Revolution number 9, we're up to round 9. But for some strange reason, instead of having 9 matches this round, we only have 8.
What?
Yes, it messes up our symmetry.
How come? Who's getting by, and who introduced this stupid thing, a thing called bye?
Well, to be fair, it's for the purposes of the China match that occurred last week, where Gold Coast and Port Adelaide played in Shanghai. It's an arduous trip. They needed to have a week off after playing their games, so that's okay. I don't mind them having a week off in round 9, but as I mentioned, it does mess up our symmetry. Only 8 games this weekend. The feature matches that I would really like to look at, there's the Friday night Lights match, which of course is on Friday night. Geelong and Western Bulldogs. That looks like it's going to be a really spectacular match.
Yes, both of them sort of up and down, up and down, up and down. And both of them are, picked up early in the season as, definite final 8 teams. But they just sort of losing games just because they have to, and so that they can get up to the, peaking at the right time.
Well, I think Western Bulldogs, you did mention before that both teams have been up and down, but I think it's only the Western Bulldogs that have been up and down. Geelong have been up and then down.
Oh, just once, yeah.
Yes, they've been up once and down once because they've either won a stream of matches or they've lost a stream of matches. So, and as you know, it is a very long season, so I think both teams are possibly pacing themselves, but especially the Western Bulldogs. They know what it's all about. They went through the experience last year of pacing themselves throughout the season and then winning the premiership last year. But my question is, when will the real Geelong stand up?
Good question. Coach is hoping the real Geelong, mighty Geelong Cats, will dominate the month of September. That's what they want to see. So, they may lose another game and then pick up to continue their up and down, up and down. So I think this week Geelong will lose another one, and then they'll start picking up, and so that you can do up and down, up and down.
Well, I must look into some of the statistics historical statistics, where back in 1999, Geelong won their first 5 games of the season and then lost their last 9. Do you think they're on the way to replicating that experience from 1999?
How did they end up in the end?
Oh, they didn't make the finals in 1999.
Oh, I think they will make the final somehow this year, but and I don't think they're going to lose 9 games in a row from here. I think they will just lose this one, so that's going to be 5-4, and then they will win 5 again, and then they will lose another 4, that kind of thing.
That's a very good symmetry there. So Geelong to lose this match, Western Bulldogs to win.
Everybody shake. Everybody groove. Everybody shake. Mary, Mary, you're on my mind.
The next match, and I think that it's an absolutely fascinating match.
Yes, it's a cracker game, mate.
Yes, it is a cracker game, but most other media outlets, they look at top of the table clashes or the teams in the top. But we're looking at the cellar dweller matches, Collingwood and Hawthorn. These two teams are at the bottom of the ladder this year, but 5 years ago this match would have been the match of the round. Without any doubt at all, standing room only at the stadium, the streets of Melbourne would have been coming to a standstill. But these two biggest Melbourne clubs are at the bottom of the ladder. What does this mean to the AFL?
I don't know. Surely these days it really doesn't matter, those the traditional big powerhouse teams not performing well. But having said that, one of them will be a winner unless we predict another draw. So, they may have a faint hope of making the final. And would that be a Hawthorn or would that be Collingwood? Now, Hawthorn during the week have lost a few players, and Collingwood has lost the, Ben Reid. So they started getting a bit of injury things, but because Hawthorn lost 3 while Collingwood lost 1, I would go for Collingwood.
Now, the good thing about having such an even season this year is that the losers will still have a chance to play in the finals. You never know what could happen, so even Collingwood, if they lose, they'll be 2-7 after 9 rounds. I think they've still got a possibility of winning. Hawthorn, if they lose, they'll be 3 wins and 6 losses. So I think they'll still have a chance to win as well. But I'm with you on this one. Collingwood have got their backs to the wall yet again. I think they'll come through and have a narrow victory. Jacket twirling. What do you know about jacket twirling?
I think it's the sort of, like airplanes going, helicopters going around. I thought they were twirling the, scarves? No. Oh, it's, hang on, what's his name? Oh, it's Kevin, Uncle Kevin.
Yes, it was actually a bit of a trick question, but I know exactly what the jacket twirling is. It's the tradition that was set up by Kevin Sheedy back in 1993.
Another tradition. He was good at coming up with all these traditions. He was behind the Anzac Day tradition. And what's this tradition he established? That was in a match against West Coast, wasn't it?
Yes, for those in the audience that don't know what we're talking about, there was a game back in 1993, and our memories go back a long, long way when it comes to AFL. We remember every single match that's ever been played and recorded. But back in 1993, Essendon were playing West Coast Eagles at the MCG. Now, West Coast, they won the premiership in 1992, so to defeat the West Coast Eagles was a big matter in 1993. And Essendon, they had a very, very young team. They were known as the Baby Bombers. And they managed to defeat the reigning premiers by 2 points. It was a goal not after the siren, but very close to the siren. And Kevin Sheedy was so excited that as he came down from the coach's box, he started waving his jacket. And then the crowd started following.
Yeah. So will it happen even if Essendon loses this time?
I don't think it matters whether they win or lose. They just pull out their jackets or their scarves or whatever and they start twirling it around even before the match commences. So it's become a bit of a tradition at every game at the MCG between Essendon and West Coast Eagles. The jackets come out, the scarves come out, whatever can come out will come out. and they start twirling it around, and it's quite spectacular.
Yeah. It's like all those mass dancing you see on North Korean television, the beautiful people just twirling things around. It's sort of Australian version of that.
Except it's much, much better.
Oh, of course.
I'm not trying to downplay the jacket twirling within this game, but looking at the more serious matters of who will win the game, I think the West Coast Eagles are still suffering the curse of the MCG. What's your feeling about this?
No, they don't travel very well, do they? They were pretty good, pretty awesome last week against Western Bulldogs. Even though they were a bit inaccurate in front of the goal, but they could still, play like they always do in their home, Subiaco. But when they come to Melbourne, they seem to be a bit, sort of lost. But they have to overcome that sort of timid travelling behaviour if they're to be really the focus in September. And it's about time, the coach wants to see that happening. Otherwise, there's going to be a psychological baggage come September. They can't perform in the MCG. That sort of things they don't want to have. So I think, West Coast, I think.
Well, I think they really suffer. It's not so much the MCG itself, but I think that they suffer from having to get off the plane, catch the Sky bus. It's actually a very long trip from Tullamarine Airport to the MCG, and I think they're a little bit precious about it. They prefer a situation where they're landing at the airport, they're taken to the ground within 5-10 minutes or something like that, and they're just not used to the Sky bus trip from Tullamarine Airport to the MCG. That's not going to change unless somehow Tullamarine Airport is brought closer to the MCG or MCG is brought closer to Tullamarine. I can't see that happening. I don't think they'll win. I think Essendon will win quite handsomely.
I think the good news in the 2017 budget is that I think the government is spending a bit of money to build the airport railway link in Melbourne. So that may change the West Coast fortune in future, but it's not going to happen this weekend.
No, it's not. So let's follow up with all the other matches. So we're running out of time here, so we'll just go for the quick tips for the other matches being played on the weekend. St Kilda and Sydney. What's your tip on this one?
This is a very important one for Sydney. I mean, they're coming to a bit of form after losing so many. They have done down and up a bit. So they want to keep on going up a bit. I think they might go up a bit this weekend too. So I'll go for Sydney.
I'll go for Sydney as well. Another match on Saturday afternoon is Greater Western Sydney against Richmond, played in Sydney.
GWS suffered a bit of injuries, and Richmond has got the psychological scar, so it's going to be a great match. I don't know which one. What do you reckon?
I think Greater Western Sydney should pull this one off, but both of them had those very close results last week. A win for Greater Western Sydney by 3 points, a loss by Richmond by 2 points after the siren. That's a big killer psychologically. I think Greater Western Sydney should recover quite well and will win the match.
Agree with you.
The final match on Saturday is Brisbane against Adelaide. Yes, I'm almost falling asleep just thinking about this match, but what's your prediction for this one?
Well, Adelaide, people started asking the question, as we do, and are they, another May Premier, and they're going to fade. And Brisbane, even though they're depleted, might have a chance to, stage another boil over. Yeah, Brisbane.
Brisbane for me as well. Then we move to Sunday, which has only got 2 matches this weekend. The first one being Melbourne against North Melbourne.
Now, Melbourne, coming into form just like a bit like Sydney. And North has been sort of honourable losers for a long time until last week. They were just completely loser. So I think Melbourne will keep their good form, while North keeping their sort of honourable losers form.
I think that Melbourne will win this one too. And the final match of round 9 is Fremantle against Carlton, being played in Perth.
Now, Fremantle, we wrote them off after 3 rounds or something, didn't we? While Eddie, way back at the beginning of the season, you predicted Fremantle is a smoky. And they may keep on, being a bit of smoky happening.
Well, they've won 5 of their last 6 games, but so that's smoking performance there, I'd say.
I think they'll keep on smoking this weekend too.
Fremantle for me as well. So there are all of our tips for round 9, even though there's only 8 games this round, which is quite unusual. But anyway, we've enjoyed it. You've been listening to The Protected Zone, where we talk about everything related to AFL. I'm Eddie J, and over in West Sumatra,
it's Linton and we're signing off. Goodbye. Have a good weekend.
And here we go out with the new Hawthorn team song. Hope you enjoy it.